Welcome back to the UnBoxed broadcast. Today, Dr. Davis and I will discuss the secret to connecting with your team. We're ready to dive in. We're excited you're here. So stick around as we help you unbox the power and potential of your leadership.
I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and leadership coach. This is my co-host, R.P. Soriano. Soriano attended Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, worked in the financial industry, and was an international consultant before partnering with me to launch UnBoxed to Lead. Me? Well, I worked for over 20 years as a senior pastor and a community organizer. Then I retired and started a leaders peer support community called UnBoxed to Lead. Soriano and I have been friends since the early 90s, and with our varied experiences and expertise, we help leaders reach the next level in their leadership. So join us for the next few moments as we unbox the power and the potential of your relationships, your leadership, and your life.
Welcome back, one and all, wherever you may be in the world. I'm R.P. Soriano, and with me once again is Dr. Robert Davis, family and workplace relationship expert, author of Seasoned with Grace, God's Recipe for Healthy Family Communication, and the 12 Steps to Becoming an Unboxed Leader workbook. How are you this week, my friend?
Man, I am doing wonderful. Had a great time with family over Thanksgiving. And I know by the time this airs, it's going to be a little late for that. But I just really had a good time. And I'm just happy to be here, ready to dive into this.
Hey, man, I'm glad to hear that. I was thinking we should have done a show about family communication centered around the Thanksgiving holiday. We may need to do a plug or do something right before Christmas to kind of help our listeners out there when they're having Christmas dinner and spending time with the holidays, and they may come in, they may have some of those uncomfortable conversations around the table or around the couch, around the fireplace, or whatever the case may be, and they can get some advice from our resident expert, that being you, on how to manage that stuff.
That's how. Let's do that, man. Sounds great.
All right, so today we're going to dive into the subject of the secret to connecting with our teams. But before we get started, I want to remind everyone to please like, share, and subscribe to the broadcast. Also, be sure to follow all of our social pages. You can follow our blog by going to our website, www.unboxedtolead.com. There you can access all of our past episodes of our broadcasts and webinars. You can also sign up for our newsletter so that you never miss out on any of the latest content or specials that we may offer for our services. I also want to take a brief moment here to describe or to give you a chance, Robert, to talk a little bit about our Leaders Peer Support community. Talk a little bit about what that is, why it's important. And then we want to talk about a special program that we are creating. It's kind of a sub-brand of that, specifically for executive directors of BIPOC leaders in the Denver area. So take us through just a few minutes, talk about the Leaders Peer Support community, what that is and why it's important, and then we can transition or kind of segue into the BIPOC Leaders Peer Support community.
Yeah, being a pastor, working with community organizations, just having various leadership responsibilities and organizational leadership responsibilities for the majority of my adult life, the overwhelming majority of my adult life. I've learned a few things. And number one, I've learned leadership is lonely. And I've learned, number two, that most people don't understand leaders except leaders. Most people don't understand what it means to lead an organization and to be responsible except leaders. So we've actually developed a program, a community rather, so that leaders can support each other. First of all, we have peer support groups where leaders can support each other emotionally. We bring them together like any support group, and they support each other emotionally, as well as helping each other to think about creative solutions to their various in their individual organizational problems. The second thing that we do is we provide a mastermind group, bringing great leaders together, those same leaders together, to think through how and to provide each other with insight and resources to reach their personal and professional life goals. We also have a tremendous curriculum called UnBoxed to Learn, where we actually teach leaders how to become more authentic, less anxious leaders who create a healthy workplace environment. And we have a lot of other resources that come along with being a part of that community. And I just want to encourage any high level organizational leader, that's executive directors, C-suite officers, and the likes, to check us out at www.unboxedtolead.com and learn more about how we can help to be a support for you and your leadership so that you can reach your full potential.
Yeah, and so what we've done from there, thanks to many of our sponsors and people who have provided, organizations who have provided grants for us, we've been able to develop a very special program specifically for executive directors of BIPOC community or nonprofit organizations. And so what we've done is we've taken that same leaders peer support community and we've been able to make a customized program that address the very some of the very specific issues that BIPOC leaders have to address or deal with. And so it's a way of creating equity. Uh, we do a lot of great things for the program. It's a great resource. It's a force multiplier for BIPOC leaders. We essentially become team members within your organization to help you develop and to help you grow in all kinds of ways through your leadership as well as administrative ways as well. So we want to encourage everyone to visit our website, and there will be a link on our website. There's a little pop up about the BIPOC Leaders Peer Support Community. It's a scholarship. It costs you absolutely nothing. It is funded and paid for through our partners, and it's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of this. So please go and sign up. We've got 20 seats available. Am I correct, Dr. Davis?
That is right. We have 20 seats that are specifically set aside just for BIPOC leaders because, as you just mentioned, Raphael, they have it as a unique set of challenges that they deal with. And so we wanted to bring those leaders together, again, as a way of supporting each other, but then to provide some additional resources for them to reach their personal fullest potential, as well as to take their organizations to the next level.
Exactly. So be sure if you are a BIPOC leader in the Denver area, and I think are we doing this just for the Denver area? Or are we expanding this all
No,
throughout
this
the
is
state?
this is nationwide. We actually have partners, nationwide organizations. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather with this cough here. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But we have partnered with nationwide organizations to provide seats available for our nation partners as well. So
Perfect.
jump
So
on in because it's only 20 seats, so they
yes.
need to go ahead and jump in, and they're filling quickly.
So the cohort begins in 20. What's the next year? 2023? Is that what next year is supposed to be?
Man, it seems like it's still 2020. To be honest with you.
Yeah. So the cohort will begin in 2023. Be sure that you visit our website www.unboxedtolead.com. Sign up for the scholarship. Fill out the application. Get yourself involved in this. I guess one of a kind. I would say one of a kind experience specifically for BIPOC leaders. So, well, let's move on. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So I want to just, before we dive into the subject, I did want to talk just briefly or just do a recap from our show, our last broadcast. We interviewed Jules Kelty, the director of Focus Points Family Resource Center in Denver, Colorado. And that was a great show. I was so enriched by her experience and her perspectives on leadership, what she's learned, how she's learned. How she's learned what she's learned, her experience as what we call a third culture kid, having grown up in Africa, spending a significant amount of her youth in Africa, and then moving back to the States, and what that was like, how that informs her leadership. It was just a great overall interview. What were some of your takeaways from that?
You know, one of the things I was so glad that she shared with us was about the importance of turning up the fire. You know, at Unboxed to Lead, we really talk to leaders about the importance of creating a less anxious workplace and being a calm presence when you show up, being authentic and calm. One of the things that she said that I thought we often miss, and that is there are times when it is necessary to turn up the fire
Mm.
and to let folk know about the urgency of various deadlines and what's going on. And that's part of her whole transparency, how she views transparency, if you remember. And I thought that
Mhm.
that was very profound, that there are times, that is correct. While we don't want to be a leader who's always running around with our hair on fire, there are times, especially when we need to be honest with our team, that we do need to up the tempo, up the temperature, as you would, in our organizations to get things done. I thought that was very important.
Yeah, very good stuff. Very on the ground, in the trenches type of advice that we got from her. So, if you want to listen to the broadcast, be sure to visit our website again. We've said it over and over again, unboxedtolead.com. If you click on the blog page, you can find that interview with Jules along with our full library of broadcasts and webinars as well. So let's jump into our topic here. So one of the key themes, and you've talked about it already, Robert, but one of the key things in our themes from our broadcast has been effective leadership communication, and we've really kind of parked on that issue, the issue of managing difficult relationships, dealing with difficult people, and how important it is to actually stay in contact with difficult people, even though we tend to want to run away from those relationships.
And because they're
Uh,
difficult people. I mean, who wants to be around? Who wants to be around someone who they view as a jerk, someone that they view as being difficult or obnoxious or whatever term you want to put at it? Who wants to be around that person? So it's understandable. I just want to throw that in there.
yeah, no, it's totally understandable. But the fact is, the reality is that they're all throughout our lives. It's a lesson that I have to talk to my kids about. That you're going to have to learn how to manage that because that's just going to be your life. You're going to have to deal with difficult people. And one more kind of caveat to that. Not only will you have to deal with difficult people, but you have to be mindful and aware enough that you can possibly be that difficult person. It's not like we're always the perfect person in every single relationship. There are things, and I think you're going to talk about this, relationships are very dynamic. So there are times when we switch places here where we're dealing with a difficult person, and when the other side, that person is dealing with a difficult person, that person might be us.
Yeah.
So we have to be kind of clear on that. So we want to talk a little bit about today. I think what you want to try to do is we've talked about this over and over again. We've said why it's important, but today we want to kind of address some practical ways to do just that. So let's go ahead and just dive right into this topic of the secret of connecting with our team.
Yeah. Well, the best, highest functioning leaders are the ones that are always working on improving their relating ability, especially their ability to relate with the significant people that they're in relationship with at home and within the workplace. Trying to connect in more meaningful ways, staying out of the counterproductive relationship patterns, and making a point to be present and accounted for at important times and events in the life of each relationship system that they're a part of. That's what makes great leaders. And we've been talking about staying connected with your team. We've been talking about being in contact, being in communication with your team, all those things. And that is so important. And I think one of the things that we really need to hone in on today, and we will, is the why that's important. I think we also need to give some practical guidance on how to do that. And that's really one of the reasons I appreciate the leaders that we've brought on to each one of our broadcasts, because they've talked about this is how I stay in contact with my team, even the difficult
Mhm.
ones. And I, like you just did a moment ago, I would encourage everyone to make sure you go back to our library, look at our previous broadcasts, especially our interviews, and really get some other tips besides what we're giving today on how you can do just that.
Yeah. So okay. So let's talk a little bit about uh, why it's important for leaders to develop a sense of, or I guess the key part of this dealing with difficult people is authenticity.
Yeah.
And being an authentic leader and being able to develop genuine relationships as opposed to a leader who is basically just moving chess pieces on the board uh, is the type of person that everyone knows is just really doesn't have their heart into it. They're just basically saying whatever everyone wants to hear, and it's pretty obvious to everyone that there is no authenticity there. So let's talk a little bit about why authenticity is important. It's kind of a sticky word. It's like trying to teach people a concept. It's like someone trying to teach me higher mathematics. You can talk to me about it all day long. It's just one of those things that just doesn't stick. And so I think for some people, when they hear the word, what does it mean to be authentic? They may be trying to do what they think is being authentic, and sometimes it just doesn't land. So I know I said a lot there, but let's talk about authenticity a little bit.
So authenticity, just to put it in its simplest term, just simply means that a leader has thought about who they want to be, what principles they want to live by, how they want to interact with everyone that they come in contact with, how they want to manage themselves in relationships, and then they are intentional. That's what authentic leaders are. Authentic leaders are intentional. Perhaps you can change that word if it helps you better. Intentional leaders. Intentional about showing up as their best selves in every relationship, at home, with their extended family, with their workplace family, with their church family, or whatever relationship system that they find themselves a part of. That's really what that means when we talk about being authentic. And one of the things, when we talked about staying connected, one of the things that's so important to understand is that it is awesome when you have an entire team that you just get along well with. In the work that I do around public safety and policy advocacy, I have a team of individuals that are just amazing, Raphael, and we get along so well. We're really hitting on all cylinders. And so that's easy. I don't dread when any one of them call me. I don't dread like, oh, not again. I'm not nervous when I go into any meetings with them, and that's great. But there are also times when you will have individuals on your team who, for whatever reason, you just don't gel with them. There are some people who are rude, abrasive, and things of that nature. And then there are just some people you just don't gel with. And it could be a myriad of reasons, but you don't get along with. And, one of the things as we talk about connecting today is us getting more comfortable with understanding or exploring why we are uncomfortable, especially in relationships. So I think that's kind of like the what. I would say just one last thing on this, and that is it's okay not to like everyone on your team, but you need to be aware of your thoughts. You need to be aware of the feelings that you have towards each team member. It's okay not to like everybody on your team. Get it. But what we're going to talk about today is not just I don't like everybody on my team, but how do I move above and beyond that so that I can be the type of transformative leader that that I desire and that I believe that I'm destined to be.
Yeah, and I think on a practical matter, just as you said, knowing that, being intentional, understanding and knowing that, hey, I really don't get along with this person. I really tend to get really upset and worked up with the way that this person interacts with me.
Yeah.
And it's just like you said earlier, you get the phone call or you have a meeting with that person, you go in fully loaded, fully charged. You've already gone in thinking, oh, man, this person's going to say this person's going to have a problem with this person is going to give me a hard time. And, we have to continue our conversation based on some email exchanges that we've had. And I just don't. And that is important. It's actually important because you need to go in aware of all of that. But I think where the twist is, you don't go in prejudging and you don't go in with the kind of the negative dread. You go in saying, hey, I know that I am impatient with this person. Now it's imperative that I exercise some patience. It's imperative that I tell myself to calm down, to be patient, to listen fully to what this person's saying. Maybe my annoyance with them gets in the way of really hearing what they're saying, which could actually be very important, could actually move us forward. But because I tend to be so annoyed with them, I just miss it. So I have to go in knowing I know how I feel when I have to engage with this person. I know the feelings that arise. I know the history that's there. Now, what do I need to do? How do I need to show up? What do I need to pay attention to? What do I need to be intentional about? My tone, my patience, the vibe that I'm giving off. And it's exhausting. You have that meeting, you probably just want to go right to sleep, or go into a coma after you after you deal with that.
Yeah.
But it is a skill that you develop, right? I mean, that's a skill, and that's all a part of that kind of growing your brain and growing your EQ and all of that kind of stuff. It comes with all of that. So you've talked about here. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, one of the things is, as we think about this, and this is what we talk about when we talk about being an authentic leader as well. And one of the concepts that we really dig into in our peer support groups is about being an authentic listener. What does that mean? One aspect of authentic listening is where you're listening to understand yourself. We talk about listening to understand others, but also listening to understand yourself. So as a person that's communicating with you, and you are, please excuse me, as you are experiencing these various emotions within yourself, the question then becomes, okay, what's going on here? What's going on with me? So for instance, I give a classic example. We don't talk about politics here, but I think it's fair to say that the previous two presidents, President Obama and President Trump, really evoked emotions, both from the people who loved them. The people who loved President Obama loved him. The people who loved President Trump loved him. The people who hate President Obama hated him. The people who hate President Trump hated him. They really evoked certain emotions out of people. And I think that has as much to say about the people as it does about the president. So what I would share with someone is, if you are at a place that every time President Obama is on television, you have to turn the channel because you just can't listen to him. He just really riles you that much. Or every time that President Trump is on television, you can't watch him without getting angry and wanting to throw a brick at the TV. What is that? What is going on inside of you? What is it about this person that is pulling those levers within your emotional machinery that you need to become more conscious of? Because the last thing we want to do is give someone else control over us. And so when we talk about why it is so important to stay in contact with every member of our team, is because members of our team, like the two presidents that I just talked about, they exhibit a wide spectrum of functioning, wide spectrums of personalities, of quirks, et cetera, et cetera. Thus, all of these relationships gives us a broad view. When we really think about it, it gives us a broad view and experience of what a relationship system is and what the emotional process is. These are just fancy words of just basically saying the more that we are around other people, the more we can really get an understanding of how different people manage themselves in relationships, how they process relationships, how they function in relationships, and how their functioning impacts our feelings and the way that we function. I hope that makes sense. So the reason that we need to stay connected is because the more personalities and functioning patterns that we work with, the more competent that we will become at managing ourselves in different types of relationships. So if we only gravitate toward people that we like or who are like us, that make us laugh, that make us feel good, then we really never gain the skills that are necessary. I remember a story. My son and his friend were we went to go visit some friends in Alabama, and there was a period where my son and their son, who are the same age, weren't speaking to each other. And so we said, hey, what's going on here? And so my son was very good at Madden football on the Xbox. And the other young man was extremely good at NBA K2 or whatever it's called on the Xbox. And so when they would play NBA, he would run the score up. I mean, he beat my son by 30, 40 points. But when they played football, my son would beat him by 30, 40 points. So they were like, both of them only wanted to play the game that they had mastered. Neither one of them wanted to play. The other guy, they didn't like losing, so they both only wanted
Right.
to play. And they finally got to a place where and this is when they were about 10 years old. They finally
Yeah.
got to a place where they weren't even speaking to each other. They're like, if I can't play my game, I'm not playing it all because I just want to win all the time. And
Right.
unfortunately, that's cute when you're 10 years old. It's not cute when you're a leader. When you say, I only can manage myself when I'm around these type of people. When the game is a game that makes me feel nervous, makes me feel frustrated or angry, then I can't play that game. So I just walk away from it. I cut it off. I'm done with it. Then you never actually improve your skills. You never get any better at it. So you have to immerse yourself into people who do jive with you, and you also have to immerse yourself with people who rub you the wrong way.
Yeah, I think it's good and healthy to be able to get the most out of those good relationships, those good team relationships. I have to tell you, it's actually quite rare to be in a functioning team. I think most leaders and most people who have been on a part of teams will say that nine times, well, maybe seven or out of the 10 times that they've been in a team, uh, those 7 times have not been really great experiences. Generally, it is just because of this very thing that you've identified here. It's just a very dynamic environment. Everyone is different. Everyone has a different approach to things. They take routes that we may not take, address uh, confrontation or address interactions in ways that we may not and that we might find strange. So I think I think you're right. We have to keep that in mind. It's always easier when all you see are fastballs, if that's what you hit. That's great. What do you do when you get a curveball or a slider or some other kind of pitch? I mean, you're not going to just get the pitch that you can hit all the time. So you have to be able to deal uncomfortable. But what I was saying earlier is when you do have those moments when you are on a good functioning team that's firing on all cylinders, enjoy it, soak all that in, get the most out of it and enjoy that, because that you're going to need that for when those other instances
Oh yeah.
when it is just really bad and dysfunctional, and you're going to need to be able to to have the skills. So let's talk a little bit about the skills to be able to run toward the fire, if you will, which is maybe completely uh, which may be completely contrary or not part of what we would instinctively do. I want to run toward the people that are difficult, run toward the challenging situations, as opposed to just running away from them.
Yeah, I want to, and I know that we're getting a little deep in this, but there are 5 other reasons why, and I'm just going to blow right through them. But I think it's really important for our listeners to know all of the various reasons why staying in contact, because man, it's so easy to minimize or to limit to the bare minimum the amount of contact we have with people who are difficult.
Mhm.
And so I want to just share a few other. Let me just give. So the second reason why it's so important is working with various personalities and levels of emotional functioning allows us to see the habitual anxiety that we carry and what type of people provoke that anxiety. So I'm like, okay, I see that I really get riled up when people raise their voice, or will I at least perceive to raise their voice. I really notice I get riled up when people tell me something at one meeting, and I think that we're on the same page. So when we go to the next meeting, ready to present, now they're asking 1,000,001 questions that they should have asked at the previous meeting, so I don't look like a fool. I notice that really gets to me. So if you avoid those people who get to you, then you can never master whatever it is that they're doing that gets to you. You
Yeah,
will
can we also talk about some things that even might even poke the bear a little bit more?
yeah.
Perhaps it's a person uh, who is demeaning based on sexual orientation, based on gender, based on culture. Maybe the other person talks down to you because they think that either their position or their title affords them that, or because something about them physically affords them that. And that causes a lot of anxiety that you've got to deal with when you're dealing with that person.
And I'm glad you said it, because if a person is just, if a person uses the N word or the F word or something like that in regards to.
Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast today. As always, it was great to be with you, Dr. Davis. For our audience, be sure to join us next week for part 2 of The Secret to Connecting with Our Team. The Unboxed broadcast is produced by Bobby Davis Jr., graphics and video design provided by Damon Mace, and marketing and promotion by John Sedano. Remember to visit our website at www.unboxedtolead.com. For Dr. Robert Davis, I'm RP Soriano. We look forward to seeing you at the next broadcast of Unboxed as we help you unbox the power and potential of your leadership. Be well.
UnBoxed provides a full-service leaders peer support community that helps high-level leaders become more authentic leaders who build healthy workplace cultures and reach their personal life goals. To learn more and discover how we can take your leadership and your life to the next level, please visit our website at unboxedtolead.com. That's unboxed, 2 lead.com. Again, that's unboxed, 2 to lead.